Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video we're going to create a web page layout. So if you're watching this, it's because you're watching along as we work on this particular assignment where we create this web page layout that I've got pictured here. I just grabbed this off the web and it seemed pretty interesting, a little bit complex, but also some simple components to it. And that's what I want us to create here. And of course, we're not spending a ton of time on web page things in this particular class, but I think we can get through making a web page layout like this. Shouldn't be too bad. So let's go ahead and prepare. On my desktop, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder, and this is going to be CIS 178 Assignment 5. So this is going to be a working folder where everything we do is going to be inside of this particular folder. So everything related to our web page is going to be in here. If we use any images, those images are going to be in there. We create a web page file, an HTML file, it's going to be right in that folder. So everything we do is going to be in this folder. I'll just leave it right there for a moment. Now the editor that I'm going to use is going to be Visual Studio Code, or VS Code, and you can download that for free and you can get it for Mac as well. So that's probably the best way to go. However, if you didn't want to download something else, you could use whatever default text editor you have on your computer. For instance, I have this editor called Sublime Text that I use from time to time, and of course everyone has good old-fashioned Notepad. That would work, and there's nothing wrong with making the web page using your plain text editor. I'm not going to use it just because it doesn't have the color coding and stuff, and I want to draw your attention to a few key things, but as long as you have Notepad or whatever the default text editor is on a Mac, I don't think Text Wrangler is still the default, but that would work just fine. You can do that with just plain text because that's all HTML is. It's a plain text language. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to open up my Visual Studio Code. I can close a couple files that I was working on before, and I will do File. I'm going to do File, Open Folder. I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to open my 178 folder, and I'll just choose Select Folder. So there's nothing in there because my folder is empty, so I do definitely need to get a web page started. So I'll close that welcome screen. I can just double click right up here in this blank area and I can start a file. In fact, before I even start putting any real stuff down, let's go ahead and File, Save As. This is going to go into my 178 Assignment 5 folder, and I'm going to call this and let's just call it page layout 1.html. Notice I'm using all lowercase and no spaces. I think it's a good habit to get into with your file names for web pages. So page layout 1.html and save. And I'm going to go ahead and start off before I do any other work. Let's zoom in a bit on that, and I don't need to see my folders, so I'll hide that. And let's go ahead and put in a few basic things that I'll want you to do. So I'm going to start off with a doc type definition. I'm going to type that just like that. And basically this tells the browser which version of markup language we're using. We're using HTML5, and this is the doc type definition for HTML5. Now I'm going to skip a number of things that there's a couple students in this class that have a little bit of web development under their belt. But I'm going to skip a few of those things because they're really not too critical for what we're doing here. So if you see me skip something that you know I've probably done in another class, don't worry about it. You can add it certainly. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go right into my HTML tag, and I'll type in language equals English-US. So I've got an opening HTML tag that has a language attribute, en-us. I know it's weird because en is lowercase, us is uppercase. Probably nothing bad happens if you do it some other way, but that's the way you'll see it most of the time. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now within this HTML section, and we know it's a section because there's an opening HTML tag that starts that section, and there's a closing HTML tag that ends that section. It's basically the start of my web document and the end of my web document. And within that, I'm going to go ahead and create, I'll I'll do a head section, and then after the head section, I'm going to create a body section. There we go. So the opening and closing head tags indicate that this is the head of the page, which contains information about the page that we won't directly see on the web page. Whereas the body section, that's going to be that contains all the stuff that people actually see on our web page. So in the head section, I'm going to type in this title, assignment 5, web page layout. And I think that's pretty good for now. And then, yeah, I think that's good. Now I have a feature in my editor that's going to auto-save as I go, but otherwise I'll just press Control-S to save, and I'm just going to keep resaving to that same file. Let's see how this is looking. So I'm going to go to my browser. Where's my browser at? There it is. Just go to a new tab. I'm going to press Control-O to open. I'm going to browse to my desktop. I'm going to go to my 178 assignment 5 folder, and then I'm going to go to my page layout 1 folder, and I can see how things are looking. And so far my page is blank. My page is blank because there's nothing in the body section. If there's something in the body section, then it's going to show up on that web page, and there it is. So whatever's in the body is going to show up in the web page. So what you might have to do is, if you make a change to the body of your page, Control-S to save, and on your browser, which is showing your web page, just hit that little refresh button to refresh and see what changes are showing up. So that's my web page so far, but I need to jazz this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to do some styling right inside of the head section. This is a little different than what I thought I might do in the assignment directions. I was thinking I might refer you to a separate CSS file, but I think this will be good for us. So I'm going to do this little style thing right up there, and I'm going to type this, and I would like you to type it the same way. There we go. So make sure you type that out. It's kind of weird, but it's not going to have a big impact right away, but it's actually going to be very helpful behind the scenes. So asterisk, which is a wildcard, represents all kinds of tags. And basically I'm saying I want a margin of 0, semicolon, padding of 0, semicolon, a border of 0, semicolon, and then box dash sizing border dash box, box sizing border box. Now some of these are going to seem relatively understandable. You probably know what a margin is. Think about it on a document. You could probably guess what padding is. Borders are really obvious. You probably just don't know about box sizing border box. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you about it. It's for a different class on a different day. But I'd still like you to put it in there. Now let's see what we can do to our web page. I'm going to go to the body of this page and put in a background color of sandy brown, and a font family of Verdana. So I'm just going to make a couple little changes to my web page here in the style section, which is in the head of my page. And if I refresh, there we go. We can see those changes take place. So we're already in a good starting position. So if you're able to make a few basic changes to your web page with the code, and then you can see it happen up on the browser, things are looking really good. Then it's just a matter of keeping up with the other things that we want to do. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about that for now. Now let's jump back and look at our template that we're making, and it can be kind of overwhelming, so try not to worry about the stuff that's at the bottom yet. Let's work on this page from the top down and create that basic structure. And if I focus just on the top, maybe even the top few parts, I can see there's a white rectangle there that has the fake logo. Then there's a black rectangle that has a navigation menu. Got it. And then there's this large green rectangle. Okay, so there's at least 3 basic rectangles up here. The contents we'll get to soon enough, but I can see that there's 3 basic rectangles. Great. So on my code editor, in the body section of the page, I'm going to create, in fact, I can delete all that stuff, a div id equals, and what do I want to call this? I'll call this the header. And I'm going to do another div, id equals navigation. And then I'll do another div equals, I'm going to call it hero1. In web pages, they call this big graphic here the hero image because it's big and eye-catching and stuff like that. So that's why I called it that. So there we go. So I've got these 3 div tags. Each div tag has an opening div and a closing div. Opening and closing, opening and closing. Each of the opening tags has an ID, which helps identify the purpose of that particular div. Otherwise, they'd be all 3 the same tags. So I've got the header one, the navigation one, and the hero one. And I made those names up, by the way, those ID names. You can make up your own name. However, they do need to start with a letter, not a number, and they shouldn't have any spaces in them. You can use uppercase and lowercase, though, but I'll just use lowercase here. So now that I've got these 3 divs on the web page, I'd like to style them so that they look very similar to the 3 rectangles on my mockup. So I can see one of them is going to have a white background, the other one's going to have a dark blue background or black, and the other one's going to have a bright green background. All right, I can handle that. So I'm going to take these one by one in the styling section. So I'm going to move up to the style area of my page. Now if I want to style the div that has ID header, well, then I'm going to put in hashtag header. And whatever I type in here, it's going to style this particular div tag. So, for instance, if I said I want this to have a height of 80 pixels and a background color of white. Okay? So 80 pixels in height and a background color of white. Control S to save, back over to the browser, back to the tab in question, and refresh. And I can see now I've got that white rectangle going all the way across. Excuse me. All right, well that looks pretty good. The next one is supposed to be dark blue, and then I'm going to go to this big green one. All right, so using that same technique, still in the style section, navigation, height, I'll do 60 pixels for this one, background color, and I'm going to type in a hex code for dark blue, hashtag, let's see, I'll do something like 3, 4, and how about E? Let's see how that looks. It's kind of a brighter blue than darker blue, isn't it? So if I dialed this E down to maybe a 9, it'll get a little darker. Okay. Control S to save, browser refresh. All right, so now I got that darker blue. Now I need that big green rectangle. I called that hero1, right? ID hero1, yep, that looks good. Now this one's pretty big, so I'll do a height of 340 pixels with a background color of yellow-green. Refresh, and there we go. There's that big green rectangle. So it's not that tough to make the different rectangles. Now I know in my plan here, it's just hard to see, but I can see that there's actually some gray on the right and there's some gray on the left over here. So there's a couple of ways to do that, and I think the way I'm going to show you here is probably not the most professional way, but I think I still might do it this way. No, let's try to be a little bit more professional. Let's do this. I'm going to go down to the body of my page. Right after the opening body tag, I'm going to create a div with ID equals container. So I'm putting an opening div right after the body tag that has ID container. And then all the way down here before the closing body tag, I'm going to put that closing div down there. So just so we're clear, the body of my page has this set of div tags with ID container. And within that div, there's my header, and then there's my navigation div, and then there's my hero1 div. So this container contains those three other divs. This div container is a parent, and the header, navigation, and hero1, those are all children divs. Those are children of the parent container. Now that I have that, I can go up to my styling, and I can say that my container should have a width of, I'm going to put in 1200 pixels. Okay, that's going to make my container narrower, which of course is going to make the children narrower because the children are inside of the parent. And then I'm also going to type this in, margin 0 space auto. Now what that's going to do, it's going to center my container within the page. It's going to center it horizontally. So if I go back to my browser, back over to this page and refresh, there we go. So now we can see that that container is narrower, and therefore the divs inside of that container are narrower too. So I can see the white, I can see the blue, and I can see that big green section. Cool. Okay. Looks like we're about a third of the way through, maybe 25% through with this. Let's move on to another section. Now I'm going to have you ignore this little chunk down here, so let's not worry about that quite yet. Let's worry about these three boxes, about company services, these three white boxes right there. Now it's after the hero div. What I'm going to do, div ID, three boxes. So I'm creating another div after the hero1 div, and it's got this ID, three boxes. Okay? What am I going to put in there? Well, I'm going to put three divs, opening and closing. Now notice these three divs don't have any IDs. That's okay. They could, wouldn't hurt, but I don't think we need them, at least not at this stage. So I've got three sets of divs, opening and closing, three sets of divs all within my div ID three boxes. And my goal is to create a layout so I have these three boxes side by side. Here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to scroll up to my styles. I'm going to create another style rule. Remember, I'm still in the style section, which is within the head section of my page. And I'm going to say my three boxes. Humor me on this one for a second. And I'm going to have it display flex. Okay, that's a little trick you can use. Normally divs are going to be one on top of the other vertical. But by doing display flex on the parent container for those three boxes, it's going to make them side by side. Now, in order to really appreciate that, though, it would help if we can see those three boxes. So check this out. I'm going to do hashtag three boxes space div and then a set of curly braces. This is how I can style the divs that are within the three boxes. Okay, remember, I've got div tags that are within those three boxes. This is not going to style other divs. This is only going to style divs if they are descendants of, within, children, grandchildren, within that three boxes area. To show you what I mean, check this out. I'll go ahead and do a border 4 pixels solid, and then I'll do a really dark gray, almost black. And I'm going to set their width to be 300 pixels and their height to be 300 pixels. Let me put these on different lines so I'm consistent. So each of my 3 boxes is going to have an obvious border, and they're going to have a width and height that makes them very square shaped. So if I go to my browser, refresh, there they are. There's those 3 boxes side by side. Now they look pretty big. And on this picture I can tell they're actually quite a bit smaller, so I'll reduce those sizes in just a moment. But we do have them, 3 of them side by side. That's pretty cool. So let's try this. Instead of 300 by 300, what if they were just 200 by 200? And what if they also had a background color that was bright white? FFF is bright white. Refresh, and there we go. However, in the plan, these boxes, they go a little bit wider. You notice they're a little bit wider than they are tall, and they take up the full width, or they stretch out and they fill up that space. So I don't want to do any hardcore math here. Obviously we could. I know that my container is 1200 pixels, which means I know about 400 pixels each in width would work, but you know, that gets too tricky. So what I'm going to do now is back up to this rule for my 3 boxes. I'm going to put in justify content space between. Now I'm not sure if that'll be enough. That should help, but it's probably not going to be enough. So let's see what that does. Okay, well they are more spaced out, that's for sure. So that's kind of getting there, but there's just way too much space. I want these boxes to not be so small anymore. And basically I was a little bit limiting by giving them that width there. Instead of that width, I'm going to change this to min dash width. I'm going to leave the height where it is though. Min dash width. Now once again, I don't think this is going to 100% get us where we want to go. It's just another step towards the goal. Min width of 200. That means they should be allowed to grow bigger when we want them to. Okay, they're not there yet, but that's okay. I still like having that min width. So I'm also going to do this. In the div, in the CSS rule that's controlling those divs, I'm also going to write this. Flex 1, 0, auto. So I'm writing the word flex and then a colon, so flex is a CSS property, and then 1 space 0 space auto. Not going to really explain what that's doing. That's once again for another class on another day. However, let's see if it had an impact. Sure did. It made them all pretty big there, didn't it? So, okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. However, in the plan, I can see there's actually some space in there. I've got those borders, not really the space. So let me clean this up a little bit. Let's see. Instead of putting that border on there, I'm going to delete that border. That was just there for the short term so we could visualize them. So I got rid of the border. Okay. However, I'd still like to be some space in there. Okay, let's see. How do I want to do this? Well, the reason I'm wondering about it, okay, now it looks like there's one big one, but don't forget there's still 3 boxes there. They're just all scrunched up. There's a few ways that we can put space in here, and I'm trying to think of what would be probably one of the best ways. I think what I'll do is, let's show you this one. Okay, I'm going to write hashtag. I'm still in the style section. 3 boxes, div, colon, nth child, and I'm going to put a 2 in there. Okay. Which is going to be the second div child within my 3 boxes. And you'd have to write it just like this, by the way. So it's hashtag 3 boxes. Remember, that's coming from this ID on that div. So it's hashtag 3 boxes, space, div for a div, and then a colon, and then nth dash child, parentheses to parentheses. So this is the second of my 3 boxes. Here's how I can prove it to you. Background color red. So now only that middle div is going to have that red background color. And there it is. So let's see. Before I mess with that, I'm curious about something. I'm going to go up to the other rule that controls all three divs equally. And I'm going to put a margin on here. I'm going to put 8 pixels space 0 pixels. Actually, that's wrong. I'm going to do 0 pixels space 8 pixels. The 0 represents the top and bottom margin. The 8 represents the left and the right. I want to see how it looks with that left and right margin. It's actually looking pretty good. The only problem is it is creating these spaces over on the far left and right. And I was kind of worried about that. So that's why I've been kind of wondering what's the best way to demonstrate getting these 3 boxes in there. So I just wanted you to see we could put those margins on there. I think I'm going to go back to the editor. I'll change that out to 0, 0, basically putting it back the way it was. And now I'm going to try it just on this middle one. I'm going to do a margin. Let's do margin left, 10 pixels, margin right, 10 pixels. So I'm only going to put left margin and right margin on the second, my red box there. I think that's going to work out pretty well. See, that creates space around in between these two, but the two in boxes, the first and the third box, they stay flush with the right. I like that. Now, on the plan though, we can see that there is a big space up there. So what I could do with something like that is I could go to the 3 boxes here and I could put in something like a big padding top of 40 pixels. Padding is inside of the border, so inside of the 3 boxes there, I'm now going to have a big chunk of padding. Cool. I think that works pretty well. In fact, I don't even need that red anymore, so I can get rid of that red. And now I've got those 3 boxes side by side. You can see on my plan that green box also has some space above it, but I'm not going to use padding for that one. I don't think padding would be good there. But what I will do is I'll go up to the nav, or the navigation div, and I'll put some margin bottom on that one. And that should create the same kind of space. So if I head back over, see, I don't have any space there. If I go back up to my navigation div, this is still in the style section. So much of your time is spent in the styling of that web page. I'm going to do a margin bottom. I'll just try 20 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Margin bottom of 20 pixels for that navigation. Yeah, that creates some pretty good space there. And we can see we're kind of moving along rather well. I like this, I like it a lot. Now, I don't want you to worry too much about this little breakdown of all this content here. Instead, I want you to imagine that this content area is just a big rectangle. And you already know how to do that, because it's going to be the same technique we used to create that big green rectangle, except now we've got this big white rectangle. I can handle that. So same technique. After our 3 boxes, we have another div. Cool. So I head back over to the header, to the code, and I'm going to go past the 3 boxes. I'm going to create a div. I'm going to give it an ID. I don't know, what should we call it? It's just a big content area, so I'll just call it content 1. I'm not worried about what's actually in there. I just want to style it similar to how I did that green block. Up to the CSS. So here's how I did that hero graphic right there. I just gave it some big height and some background color. I'm going to do the same thing for this content 1 box. Content 1, set of curly braces. You'd never use so many curly braces except for this particular assignment. And let's see, I'll do a height of 340 pixels and a background color of hashtag FFF, which is the hex code for white. All right, that should look pretty good. Now they kind of blended into my 3 boxes there, and I didn't want that to happen, so I do need to get a little bit of spacing, it looks like. Yeah, not much spacing, but just enough. A couple ways we could do that. I'm going to head back to my 3 boxes. I've got that padding top. I don't want to do padding bottom. Padding bottom probably would get us the look we want. But I'm going to do margin bottom of 20 pixels. Sometimes margins and paddings can give you the same finished look, especially if there's no visible borders on the object. Oh, there we go. So now we've got that space. There's that big white rectangle. This is looking good. Okay, almost at the end here, at least for getting the basic layout. I am going to put in some content, some images too, so we're not done with this, certainly, and this is obviously going to be a little bit longer of a video, but we'll get through it. So I see there's going to be a head section right there, or a head section. There's going to be a heading, a headline, says gallery, and then there's 4 boxes side by side. That's not so tough. We can do that because we know how to put 3 boxes side by side. Now you're going to do 4 boxes side by side. But let's go ahead and I will put in that word there, which is just kind of floating in space. So it's after content 1. I'm going to do an H2, a headline 2. Gallery. Is it gallery with an E or an A? Gallery, okay. And then we have our 4 boxes. We're going to do those 4 boxes the same way we would have created those 3 boxes. Div ID equals 4 boxes. And within that, I'm going to do 4 sets of opening and closing divs. So there's an opening and closing div tag 4 times. So there's 4 opening and closing divs there. All within that 4 boxes. Okay? Ooh, can I show you a little trick here? Let's see. Let's find out. Let me go back to my styles. And let's see. So normally this is where I would do some styling for the 4 boxes, but I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to do 4 boxes space div. I'm going to style the divs that are within the 4 boxes. So that's hashtag 4 boxes space div. And I'm going to write in flex 10 auto. Remember how I explained what this does? I didn't. I'm not going to explain it this time either. But I'm going to do that. And let's see. Blue, green, yellow, red. Let's try this. 4 boxes div. Inf child 1. I already forgot what the colors were. Blue, green, yellow, red. Okay, now watch this. I'm going to select this rule, copy it, paste, and then I'm going to have one for the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. Blue, green, yellow, and red. So it's hashtag 4 boxes, space div, colon, inf dash child, parentheses, 1, parentheses. And of course this 1, 2, 3, 4 represents the first, second, third, and fourth div that's within my 4 boxes div. And they've got those different background colors. Now I'm not done. If we looked at this, you probably won't see them. Nope, we don't see them, even though I'm pretty sure this is all right. Because something else I need to do up here is I need to give these blocks some height. I'm going to make them 160 pixels tall. By giving them some height, you'll actually start to see them. There they are, right there. Now, you're thinking, of course, well, that's pretty and all, but that's not the way they're supposed to be. They're not supposed to be one on top of the other. It's supposed to be side by side. Well, divs naturally like to be one on top of the other. It's that whole display flex which gets them side by side. Now, earlier I said I was going to skip over this hashtag 4 boxes like I did before. I want to see if this will work. I'm going to go to the hashtag for my 3 boxes. I'm looking at the options here. I'm going to try this. Right after hashtag 3 boxes in my style, I'm going to do a comma, hashtag 4 boxes. So basically, my 3 boxes div and my 4 boxes div are all going to share the same declarations, the same CSS properties. Refresh, and look at that. Now we've got those kind of where we want, and they are side by side, and they're all butted up next to each other, which is fine because in the plan they're all butted up next to each other. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I noticed that word gallery. I'm going to kind of get that arranged a little bit here. So let's see what I can do with that. I'm going to jump over to this code and go to the style section. I'm just still within that style section. And I'm going to take the, let's see, what is this? This is a H2 that's after content 1. I'll just say H2. H2. So if you want to style just a tag, all you have to do is write in that tag name. No angle brackets, no hashtags, no periods and stuff like that. Before, all you've seen me do was type in hashtags up here, and that's because I was styling things by their ID. Oh, I take that back. I also styled the body of the page, and that's the body tag. So I'm going to style this H2, and I'm going to do a text align center. That's simply a CSS property. Text align is a CSS property. That's going to center the text. And I think I'm going to also do padding. Remember, if I do 2 numbers, it's going to be top and bottom, left and right. So the first number, I'm going to do something big, like 24 pixels. That's the top and bottom. I'll do 0 pixels left and right because the text is centered, so you won't appreciate any left or right centering. Let's see how that looks. Refresh. Yeah, not bad. Cool. All right, now I think probably didn't need as much padding on the bottom. So if I want to do 4 units of measurement, so let's see, there's top, right, bottom, left. So I can write it with 4 numbers here. And so with 4 units of measurement there, it's top, right, bottom, left, clockwise starting with top. So I have 24 pixels of padding at the top, 0 on the right, 8 on the bottom, 0 on the left. Oh, while I'm here, font weight normal. That's going to get rid of the bold of that headline. Refresh. Cool. I'm going to change that bottom padding to 0. Yeah, that looks pretty good. What else can we do to this? Font size, how about 140%? Is that going to be too big? Nope, it's actually kind of small. What about 190%? Let's do 200%. Okay, I'm actually pretty happy with that. Yeah, it looks pretty close to this. Now it looks like I still have a little bit more spacing than I want. I think that's because I've got that margin on there. I don't know if you recall, but my 3 or 4 boxes here has that, nope, that wouldn't be it. That's not causing the issue right there. Well, let me show you another trick here. Well, since I can't take away any more padding, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do margin bottom on that headline 2. I'm going to do negative 40 pixels. That's going to be way too much, but I want you to see something dramatic. So I'm going to put a big negative bottom margin on that headline 2. And you see it starts to get really, really close there. So now I can dial that back. In fact, I'll go even bigger. I was hoping it would look way big. There we go. So now it's actually going behind where those 4 boxes are. So let's dial this back to like negative 30. Oops, I think I just did 3. Okay. Let's try 40. Nope, I need to go the other way. 20. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I just wanted some balanced space with these, with 4 boxes next to that word. I think that looks pretty good. What else have we got? So then there's another space. So after the 4 boxes, there's a space, but otherwise the only thing left is this little white rectangle at the bottom, which is representing a footer. So let's see, I'll head down here after my 4 boxes, another div, ID equals footer. Then I'll go up to the styling, the footer. Oops, I don't want to do it that way. Hashtag footer, because I'm styling it based on the ID. And let's see, I'll give it a height of 80 pixels and a background color of white. Let's see how that looks. So I'm giving that footer div some height and some background color. All right, looks pretty good. In the picture, there's a little bit more space there, so no problem. I can go to this footer, and I can give it some margin top. Well, let's try something big, like 100 pixels, see how that looks. Yeah, it gives it a big amount of space there, and I'm going to make it just a wee bit smaller, 60 pixels in height. Cool. All right. I'm actually pretty satisfied with this. Now I know my video is a little bit long here and we're not done, but I think we got all the hard part over with. I still want to add some images though, and a little bit of fake text. I want to do some hyperlinks. I'm going to do some pretend navigation menus on here. However, things are going pretty well with this web page. So I think we've got the right basic layout. And does it look exactly like our model? Maybe not exactly like it, but pretty darn close. If we were to see these two side by side, let's take my web page out. And let me zoom out on it a bit so it's not all so scrunched up. There we go. Yeah, so those are our 2 web pages. Header, navigation area, big hero graphic area, 3 boxes side by side, another big box, and 4 boxes side by side, a gallery, and then a footer. So that looks pretty darn good. So I think what I will do is I'll stop this video here, and then I'll pick up another video where we can just finish up and put in some pictures and things like that, and we can focus our attention on some images. All right, so thanks for hanging out with me. Talk to you later.